to our quarterly BusinessWorks event. And this is a free resource, a free workshop series that we offer on different topics every quarter. And this was a very hot topic that a lot of artists were looking for ways to learn more about ways to structure their business. And I do want to say a disclaimer that our speakers here today, they're not tax professionals. So if you do have any tax questions, please reach out to a professional for that. But this will just be, general information about their experience and their story and journey. Jess Soriano is a mindful explorer, and visual creator. The search for endless adventure led her to Monterey Bay, where she currently resides. With a background in health science and human performance, she ventured into the world of scientific illustration. And from there, her perspective expanded from medical science to environmental conservation. Knowing there was much more to learn, she switched her focus inward, exploring the deeper parts of the psyche for spiritual growth, healing, and inspiration. The desire to combine all these different aspects of herself is reflected in her work. She continuously discovers ways to encourage others to recognize our innate connection to the universe, nature, ourselves, and one another. Endlessly enthralled by our inner and outer worlds, she hopes her creative expressions will inspire others to explore their natural surroundings, see love in all living things, and open their minds to the beauty of unity. So for the last 4 years, Jess has navigated life as a freelance visual creator, specializing in scientific illustrations, public art murals, and film production. When she's not running around capturing special moments between music, art, and people, she mentors and teaches workshops for kids and young adults at the Youth Arts Collective and the Western Flyer Foundation. So welcome, Jess.
Thank
you. And Monica Galvan grew up in Watsonville, California. She comes from a biracial family with a Mexican father and a mother of French European descent. Living in low-income housing projects for the majority of her life, she learned about her Mexican culture and became aware of the racial inequities and discrimination faced by her Latinx neighbors. Her upbringing has kept her grounded. She honors her roots by sharing her passion for art with her community. In 2014, Monica transferred to UC Berkeley from Cabrillo College, receiving her bachelor's in art practice in the spring of 2016. And she recently received her master's of fine art from San Jose State in the spring of 2023. Monica currently teaches art lessons in alternative education high schools and community centers in Santa Cruz County. She has been a practicing teaching artist in Watsonville for the past 5 years. And in 2019, Monica founded a nonprofit called Arte del Corazón, an organization geared at securing and providing opportunities for financial advancement, professional development, and community engagement for local artists and creatives of Watsonville, California, and the surrounding counties. So welcome, Monica, to our program. And we're going to start today with Jess's presentation, and if she's comfortable, she can take questions at the end of her presentation. If not, we'll keep everything to the very end. So thank you, guys. Welcome.
Hi guys, thanks for coming in today. So we're going to talk about business resources for artists to thrive. So we're pretty much going to talk about the things that we don't really want to talk about, meaning taxes, contracts, and invoices. So, but the first things first is you have to know what your vision is. So like Karen said, I kind of did a lot of roundabout ways to get where I am today. I started out as a science major and I was going to be a chiropractor. I really wanted to be a yoga instructor, and that was like my whole thing for 4 years. And then I started traveling. And then I did a study abroad program, and then I realized I didn't want to spend 4 more years of college doing whatever and trying to be stuck in one place. So I decided to pursue art. And I got science illustration at CSUMB for graduate school. And that was when I was finally able to combine my love for science and the human body and nature and my creative inspiration, which is in art. And that's pretty much what you need to figure out now, is what your vision is for your business. If you are an entrepreneur or sole proprietor, you really have to figure out what you want to express in this world. Because your business could be separate from you, but at the end of the day, it's really a part of you. We want to get out of that 9-to-5 job, but it's gonna turn into our whole entire lives. And we're gonna be thinking, eating, sleeping, dreaming, crying, and everything about this job. So today we're gonna talk about actionable goals so we can set you up for a really strong foundation for your business. So like I said, the brand is you, and I want you to think about that your branding is not permanent. A lot of times we get stuck on getting the right logo, getting the right color palette, getting the right branding to make our business shine. And that could be really daunting and discouraging when you don't have it set in stone. But I started out as Land Sea Studios. I wanted the connection between nature and or land and sea, so pretty much opposites, up and down, in and out, all of that kind of connection. Pretty much the paradox of life, but I figured that didn't really represent me on what else I could do. So I decided to go back to my name and make it Jess Soriano Studio. And pretty much I didn't have it up here, but I worked through like 5 different logos. I had different taglines. I think I have 600 business cards of like just different business cards where I'm like, this will work. And I got it and I'm like, this isn't me anymore. So it just happens. Like, you can't let that discourage you from pretty much exploring other options of how you want your business to be like. So we'll talk about business license. So if you're a sole proprietor, you're a one person owning a business, and you want to structure the business that deals with you. If you have kids, if you have dogs, if you have other pretty much things that you need to focus on, you could make that happen and you could balance it by structuring it yourself. The main thing is to actually get a business license, because even if you're only making $100 a year, $200 a year, they want to see your growth. If you all of a sudden do your business under the table and then all of a sudden you make $10,000, the IRS is going to be like, how did this business just start? And you already make this money. I mean, you could go viral and make this much money, but it's not very normal, and you're going to get a lot of eyes on you being like, how did this happen? Like, did you have any growth at all? So you really want to focus on your business license, and then this will help with taxes. So is it a hobby or is it a passion or a profession? When you have a business license, you know that it is a professional way, like you are committed to this endeavor, you are committed to this passion. And you have to realize that what you sell, you have to have a seller's permit. So pretty much you have to have a permit with the California Department Tax and Fee Administration, so cdtfa.california.gov. You have to apply for it. Pretty sure it's free. It's not expensive. Pretty sure it's free. But double check on me. And it just shows that you're allowed to sell within this county, within Seaside. But the sales tax is never your money. So you have to make sure that you keep aside this money to give back to the IRS. And you have to keep in mind that when you're charging your products, you have to keep city sales tax, county sales tax, processing fees. So if you're using a Square, if you're using PayPal, if you're using Venmo, people are gonna pay you from that, but that's gonna also get taken out because you're giving that money to those servicing providers that you need to get that money back. So this is why prices are a little bit high, is because for where like Monterey County is and Seaside is, Seaside I believe is 7.25% tax, and Monterey County is, I'm not entirely sure of that too, but total comes to around 9.4%, which is a big chunk of your profit if you really think about it. So you really have to look at what your city entails and what taxes you need to take out for that. And then if you are getting bigger and you want to employ other people, you gotta do a 1099. I always say I live the 1099 life because it's pretty much at the end of the year, you get a form if you get paid over $600. You need to claim this on your taxes, or else they'll be like, oh, how'd you get this money? And obviously the person who's giving you more than $600 is gonna want to claim that and want to save money on that. But pretty much if you're the one giving the 1099 form out, you need to do that by the first month, by the end of the first month of the new year. Because if you don't, I'm pretty sure my friend was in this situation. She paid me $1,600 to help her with a mural. She didn't realize that there was a fee for that, so she didn't do her taxes or get the 1099 form, I think until March or April. And then by that point, you're paying like $150, $250 fee. So you need to figure out like who you're paying this money to, and you have to get that filed in as soon as possible within the new year. And then the most important thing is to make sure you give your money, a profit to yourself first. That is the major thing. A lot of businesses don't thrive because they are like, I get all this money, so I'm gonna invest in new things. I'm going to pay my bills. I'm gonna pay my taxes. But you don't pay yourself. So are you really gonna make money from it? You need to put out a little bit of chunk. I always do 10% of whatever I make in, and I put it into my savings, and I keep it in there, and I never touch it. That way that if you give yourself money first, give it to taxes, give it to your bills, then that is the amount of money that you could explore with and get new equipment and do that stuff with. But before you could grow, you have to pay yourself first, because if you keep yourself getting into more and more debt, it's just gonna get harder and harder to make that revenue and make that profit that you wanna make. And then these are the deductions. I'm not gonna go through all of them because we're on a time limit, but pretty much you could deduct a lot of things on taxes. I was able to deduct all of these things pretty much from school, from business license, from partial rent, supplies. I was able to do membership expenses. So if you do use Adobe software, if you get memberships, like for me it's a GNSI, so the Science Illustration Guild. So if you do any of these things, which also prove that you are committed. So if you're in a design membership, or if you're in an entrepreneur conference membership, if you're in one of those memberships, write that off, and that shows that you are going to these conferences, you're going to these workshops, and you're making the money to try to do that. And then when you go to these, you could count meals, you can count lodging in it. So you have to show that you're actually putting the effort into your business, and that you're going into it and you're trying to learn more skills. And if you drove here, I'm pretty sure you could type that in as the miles that you put in, because you're coming here to do the work. So make sure that you also make money though. So you have to show that you're making money in order to deduct all of these things. And then fun stuff is getting paid. This is this actually is a template from Google Templates. So this is not a super unique invoice. I pretty much took the invoice, changed the description, payment terms and stuff like that, and then I just put in all of the stuff. But pretty much these are the main things that you want in an invoice. It just looks more professional, and it just looks like you have your shit together. Sorry to cover the language. But you want to include the addresses, what you did, how you broke it down, how much you get paid an hour, and then your total. And I worked with a nonprofit, and they wanted a signature at the end of the invoice just to say that I signed it and that I approve of it, and that this is what my invoice is that I want to get paid. So this was actually with Arts Council, so she knows how much she paid for me. Now you guys know how much I get paid. But yeah, I think it's really important to be transparent on how much you get paid. You don't want, with the market, with freelancing, you don't want to lower the market rate, and you don't want to ruin the ability of you getting paid more. If you talk to other freelancers about how much they get paid, it allows for everyone to be in a fair, competitive ground where you're both getting paid. At the end of the day, we're not being competitive with each other. We could do whatever we want. It's how we could thrive together, essentially. And then contracts. So this is a little bit tougher. I think everyone should have a contract. I do know that people don't like to use contracts for some reason. They feel like email is good enough, phone call, text message is enough, but it doesn't keep everything organized. You need to have a contract that shows what you're doing, the grant of rights, so who has copyright, and payment. Those are the main things that you want to put into your contracts. But you have to be as specific as possible. There was a time where I had a contract for a man to illustrate a children's book. He didn't have a big budget, but it was fine because he told me specifically that these books were going to be given out for free at clinics. So I'm like, oh, okay, so this is a really good thing I could give back to the community. It's free, I don't need to charge that much. So I put in the grant of rights that he could use these books for promotional purposes, and just that. And I was like, he'll understand what I'm saying, right? No. He ended up putting the book on Amazon, getting paid for it. Yeah, he was getting paid for this. And I didn't have the ability to be like, I need the royalties for it, you know? So it really hurt my heart because I went on Amazon and I was like, oh, this guy is getting paid to put this up and get money for it. And you just have to say if it's for free, you should be like, it's for promotional purposes, free to give out, no compensation needed. It has to be, it's so specific that even if you think you're rambling, you're not. You need to make it that it protects you and your artwork. And then with payment, you have to do, I put in the payment it has to be paid within 30 days or some 1% monthly charge, interest charge. And that just gives them a little bit boost in their bum to be like, okay, I need this money. They need it or else they're gonna get paid more. And another major thing I like to put in my contracts is to be the exclusive, modify, and terminating agreement. That says that you have the exclusive right, that everything in this agreement is written and that supersedes all that's said in person. So anything through email, anything through text does not matter unless it's on the contract. And then if you have a terminating agreement, so with these guys, I had an agreement for a year. And you can see the payment, they weren't paying me much, and then they told me that they capped my own rate for them, so I couldn't raise my prices in 6 months for them. And I was like, okay, we could work, I like them. But by the end of an event, I was like, I can't focus on this because one, the pay wasn't as good, and two, they treated me as if I was on call all the time. So I would get messages at 11 o'clock. I would get messages at 9 in the morning, be like, we need this in a day. And I'm like, you need to put in a day, a clause that says, if you want a rush job, it'll be this much money. I didn't have a rush job in this contract, and that sucked. So the terminating agreement was great because I could terminate the contract and then within 15 days, so it's kind of putting in my 2 weeks, and then that contract is null and void. So pretty much I put in my 2 weeks for them, and then I was able to get out of that situation. But yeah, having a contract is really great. And then I put it in here for tips for success, but it'll be really good to invest in a lawyer. I'm not talking about have someone on retainer, but I was able to look online, get a bunch of different contracts, pick what I wanted from them, and make my own contract. And then I sent it to a lawyer, and he was able to organize it in a way that made sense and put in specific details for me. And that cost around, I want to say $300 to $400. And that, if you invest $400 on your contract, you could use that contract for the rest of your clients. And you could just change it the way that you want, but that's a $400 investment to have something that saves you from a lot of pain. And then some things that are also important is to schedule all your important tax dates and your membership renewals. That's also an important thing. It could be really tough starting a business. I think I played around with the business in 2017 and I didn't start until 2019. And then that was me doing all the taxes myself and paying for self-employment tax and all of that good stuff. But it's just important to keep all of your dates in line so you don't get fees. I think there was a property tax fee that I didn't pay in time, and that it went from a $50 fee to an $80 fee. So it's just those little things, $30 things that could save you a lot of trouble. And the major thing is get to know your community. That is a major thing with starting your business. You have to go out, you have to do markets, you have to go to any open house that allows entrepreneurs to get to know each other, because if you get to know each other, you could learn more about how the business is run, you could learn more tips and tricks about who to go to, who to talk to, who to connect with, and it allows you to keep the spirits up. Like when 2020 happened, I was like, cool, I started a job. I started a business in 2020. That really sucked. And I was like, I don't know how it's gonna happen. So I pretty much was a bartender for those 2 years, and then I was able to transition to full-time artist. But it's hard, and then when you get to know your community and you do a bunch of events, then you realize that everything is like possible, and you're all struggling together. So it's like, it's a cool therapy session where you kind of just like not bitch around, but you talk about the businesses and like what clients aren't treating clients right, and it kind of saves you the trouble from experiencing what someone else experienced. Because what if you experience something and you're like, oh no, like you don't want someone else to experience that. You really want to help each other out, and at the end of the day, that's how you can make it successful. So I hope this was helpful, and thank you for coming in.
Do you want to take questions now or at the end?
I think, yeah, a few questions.
Yes, yeah,
Okay, my question was just about, do you have a lawyer that you recommend locally?
I actually don't. My lawyer was from the Science Illustration program, and he is like semi-retired, so he is back and forth between Oakland and the Big Island. But I do suggest, there is a man, he works with him, but it's in Oakland. So that's like the thing. The thing about a lawyer is you want to get a lawyer that's specific for your field. Like you wouldn't want a lawyer that deals with big corporations helping out with your stuff, because he's dealing with big money stuff. Like he's dealing with like lawsuits. We're dealing with like how to navigate rent, utilities, and deductions. We're doing something really small in comparison to what they do. So I'm sure if you look online and try to type in like artist lawyers, or lawyers for like copyright infringement or something like that pertains to your field, you'll be able to look in. And like they usually do a free consultation too. I did that with the CPA. If you do a free consultation and they talk to you about it, then you could decide whether or not someone to invest in. But usually artist lawyers tend to be a little bit nicer than like the big corporate ones.
And then the second half of my question was just, have you ever had someone that didn't want to work with you when you put a contract in front of them? Because they got cold feet and they're like, this is way more complicated. I just wanted a word of mouth agreement or something.
I don't remember. I might have blocked it out of the bowl from my mind. But for the most part, I do give it a contract, and if they don't agree with it, then it's just not meant to be. And what you could do is you could send the agreement. What I like to do is I like to print out the agreement, set up a meeting, and go up through with it with them. So it's more like you talk it's about them. So you want to be like, I want to be on the same page as you. I want us to work together and to not have any miscommunication like that. And when they see that, they're like, okay, this person really wants to work with you, and then they really want to understand where you're coming from. It's pretty much, it's a collaboration at the end of the day. You're not trying to do just monetary value. You're spending a lot of time with these people. Like the reason why the other guy hurt so much was because we spent 9 months on this book together. Like we pretty much had a book baby. And it just book baby, and the way that he screwed me over, it felt really sad. So yeah, I always think that if they don't want to do a contract and word by mouth, I think that's really sus. So
That's a what? I'm sorry.
oh, suspicious.
Suspicious.
Yeah.
Just a suggestion, when you're looking for a lawyer, intellectual property lawyer and a contract lawyer, we don't have a lot of them in this area, but sometimes, now with technology, we can work with somebody online from LA or whatever. But also, at the law school, Monterey College of Law, they are really good at suggesting for different types.
That's a good, I'll keep that just upgraded.
Yeah.
That's smart, thank you.
You had a question over here?
Actually, I also just wanted to mention in regards to the lawyer, there's a nonprofit in the state of California. It's something literally like, lawyers for artists kind of deal.
cool.
And you call them, you tell them, I'm like, for example, in my case, I did a lot of street photography. I had questions about selling prints if I didn't have a model release.
Yeah.
And so they took that,
Oh, yeah.
they found a lawyer who deals with that kind of thing, and then they set up a 1-hour consultation so I could ask my question. And then you have that resource if you need to get a hold of them in the future to have any more questions. Also, just in general terms of business, the Small Business Administration in the area is a great resource to get in contact with, because they'll help you develop a business plan, and they'll really talk to you about, like, help you get a better idea of what you want to do with your business. So I just wanted to share those resources
That's
because
great,
I found them helpful.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. I forgot to put that in the thing.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I have a friend who, I'll talk to her mom today, and she is finishing her, she's getting her degree or whatever, she's in law school to be this exact thing, like that we're talking about. It's like, yay, Alyssa. So, you know, I'll have her, give her name and whatever, you know.
So thank you for sharing.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome.
All right, well, thank you, Jess. Oh,
How can we reach Jess?
well, yes,
Oh, I
please.
brought
She has a bunch of
decals that are like business cards, but you can put them on water bottles and your car and stuff. It just has my Instagram handle right there, and then but it's also my website. So the Instagram handle is my website, and then it's just another endeavor I'm pursuing called Love Not Lost Films, which is solely focused on film production. Because I'm a muralist by trade, but I want to venture more into really cool films. So yeah, free. Take as many as you want. Well, as many as everyone can. But yeah, if you want, I'll put them on this table right here. Sorry, I'm really slow right now. Okay, I'll put them right here. And you guys could just take it if you want.
Thank you.
Awesome, that was awesome. Lots of great information, and I love that you have stickers as your business card.
It's gonna be multi-useful.
Right? All right, well, my name is Monica, everyone. I live over in Watsonville, and I'm just visiting for the day. So my title is From Business to Nonprofit, My Experience So Far. So this is literally my experience so far. None of it is like, you know, fully completed yet, so know that I'm on a journey. And I just wanted to kind of talk about how I started. So Arte de Corazón, we started back in 2019, and the first market I had ever done in 2019 was that first picture on the left. That was me and my partner. I brought all of my stuff, everything. We were at, I think it's called the XL House or something here in Salinas. And I was like, I'm gonna sell my art. First time ever, I was completely like, didn't want to do it. And then I went there, brought all my stuff hilariously down the stairs and up the stairs. But I got to meet so many amazing artists. And I was like, wow, like I had been out of school since 2016, and I was taking classes at Cabrillo College before I went to grad school. And I didn't know any artists in my community of Watsonville. I had come back from school, knew no one, kind of kept to myself, and I was like, wow, there's no community here. Where's the community? And a lot of them just kind of hung out together, and they knew each other, and they hang, you know, and there was no like in for me. And then I went to my first market, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I can meet artists, like I didn't even know this was a thing, this is amazing. I like had 3 new friends just from going there. I like would keep everybody's cards and buy their prints and stuff. So like this idea of the art market was just so beautiful to me, and it was such a big new world. And then flash forward to today, we've been organizing art markets. I think we've done, I want to say 40 at this point. It's been 4 years. Our 4th year will be in October, excuse me. So we've been doing markets. And I was like, you know what, I want to start organizing these back when in 2019. And we did our first holiday market and then went from there. And always the idea was to help provide professional development opportunities for artists. But we could never afford it through anything that we did. So I was like, okay, we need to find some funding. So from from grassroots, so first thing I did actually, before we even became anywhere close to a nonprofit, we were kind of grassroots, hanging out in that regard, we became a business. So I thought during COVID that I would become a business and I would start marketing myself as a teaching artist, because I'm a teaching artist. So I got my own LLC, limited liability company. I was like, this is gonna protect me if anything happens while I'm teaching, if a kid cuts himself, if it gets, burned, whatever. Of course, that's also insurance, but a little bit of both, right? Just in case a parent gets a little upset and they want to sue me. So I came up with, became a limited liability company, right? But you guys just learned about how to be a sole proprietor. Anyone could be a sole proprietor. You just put it on your taxes at the end of the year. You don't have to do any type of paperwork, but to become a limited liability company, you're a little bit more protected, especially when we're doing our markets. It makes it so that Monica doesn't get sued in case anything happens at the market, right? Now Arte de Corazón LLC gets sued, and then their money gets, which is technically still me, but then my personal assets don't get attacked. And so the one thing about limited liability companies, which you can become online, you can work with the lawyer to become one if you want, like they can help you with that, or you can just do it on your own. So I did LegalZoom, and they helped me. It was expensive. You can also do it yourself. That's something I was like, when I don't know how to do something, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna find a service that'll do it for me. So I went to LegalZoom. But you can also become it on yourself. You can fill out all the paperwork. There's a lot of paperwork, and then submit it to the proper places that I don't know about. But if you need a little tip, LegalZoom helps. You have to pay $800 a year on top of income taxes. Now I put down here, I put little stars to tell you it's possibly a credit, but I don't know. I haven't seen it as a credit when I did my taxes, so my assumption is it's just $800 a year, and even if you have income taxes, you have to pay those as well. But that's kind of a money suck, right? $800 a year. You're like, how much am I making that I can afford $800 a year? But it does give you a legal structure, having that. And then if you guys want, you can kind of read a little bit through. I can give you just a couple seconds. I come up with like a con. It's expensive if you're not making enough money to cover it. Pro, it removes liability from you personally in a worst case scenario situation. And then the sole proprietor, the con, and no legal structure, right? You don't have, if anything happens, it's on you. And then the pro, outside of income taxes, it's basically free to be a sole proprietor. I don't know if you guys are gonna get these after, but maybe we can, I decided to put a lot of information in here. And so, being a business and being in that grassroots realm, I had a very big separation. So the first name of my business was Monica Galvan Art. I thought that was super clever at the time. And then I was like, wait, I'm focusing all my time on these markets and this nonprofit that I'm like building with local artists, right? It wasn't just me, it was me and local artists. I was leading it, but they were supporting it. And so I was like, okay, we are technically right now grassroots. So a grassroots is just a group of people that can get together and want to do stuff for the community, nonprofit work, right? Nothing super crazy to it. You can use grants for your grassroots. You can get grants from like small nonprofits, like your community nonprofits, nothing big. Like the Arts Council, you could get a grant from, right? The Monterey Arts Council. If you're in Santa Cruz, the Santa Cruz Arts Council, you could get a grant for your work. But that's about it. You can kind of get some funds like from other places. There's the Center for Cultural Innovation, and you can get grants through them, which I'll get onto later. But there's not much funding, so a lot of it's crowdsourced, and it makes it really difficult. So to become a nonprofit, you have to have the ability. You get the ability to apply for grants, and let's see. And then you have to pay people. So like to become a full nonprofit, like it's completely different than grassroots. If people tell you they're the same, there's that's up to them, but completely different. You have to really be able to sustain a nonprofit. I like personally, we don't have the fund when we started, and currently we don't have the funds to like get ourselves someone to do our accounting, or someone to make sure that we're like doing our taxes right and all of that. So that comes down to being fiscally sponsored. So if you don't have all that stuff in place for being a full nonprofit, you want to figure out how are you going to get these grants without that nonprofit C, right, in place. And so that is getting fiscally sponsored. It depends where you are. Different organizations will do it, and they all take a fee. Usually, we have an 8% fee from the Santa Cruz Arts Council, and what they basically do is they almost put their name on it for you. they're your umbrella. So you apply for the grant. You do all the work. Don't get me wrong. You do all the work. Don't think it does not remove your work. You apply for the grant. And then you come up with like the budget and everything that goes into the grant application. And then they get the money, they take 8% and they give you the money back to do your work. You have to give them receipts. You have to you're basically a nonprofit with them as almost your accountants. That's the whole way it works. So if you do want to go that route, I recommend starting that way. I know it's hard that they take a percentage of your hard work. But they do put some work in, and you can make them put more work in if you're giving them more money. You know, you just expect some stuff. And then, so becoming a nonprofit, right? So right now we're fiscally sponsored. We're on this path towards becoming a nonprofit. So I wanted to kind of give you what I've learned so far. So we have to have a strong board of directors. So your board of directors will become the people who run your nonprofit. You, as the person, whoever, I'm saying you, let's say the person doing a nonprofit, it might not be you guys, maybe it's your friend. You are in charge of the nonprofit when it's in its fiscal sponsorship, right? You do kind of start to bring on board members, but it's mostly you. And so once you become a nonprofit, you have to be able to like step away and give away that kind of connection and your running of it, right? Because now it becomes a community thing. That's like the idea of nonprofits, right? They're run by the community for the community. So anyways, you have to have a strong board of directors that actually are gonna be working for you and working with you. I've had horror stories told to me that like once you get a board of directors, they could fire you. Technically they could. But you know, I prefer not to think about that because I wanna definitely become a full nonprofit. And then you have to be prepared to pay either a monthly fee for accounting service or pay an accountant, because that's a super big thing. Like you can't just be doing it unless you have skills in that. You can't be doing it yourself. I mean, I'm sure you might be able to do it for a couple years, but like, you know what I mean? There's things you're gonna miss. It's definitely something that you want to have a professional working with you, but there are online services that do this as well. And it's kind of almost like having, like right now we use QuickBooks for all of our accounting. Like we still pay for accounting services, but we're fiscally sponsored. We use that for all of our accounting. It's kind of like that, but it's a little bit more expensive. And you have like the ability to like call them and be like, hey, like did you track this grant this month and I can't see it, or things like that. Or you can have a person, and there are a lot of like people who will do it like as a contractor too as well. And then file your 501c3. How do you do this? I'm currently starting this process. I'll keep you guys posted. I'll let you guys know. I'll post it on our Instagram page. But that's kind of how far I've gotten. I've gotten pre-file. We're in the process of filing probably next month. I haven't even started that part, but right now I'm getting our board situated. And then I know what our accounting service is gonna be, but in terms of the filing, we'll see what happens there. Hopefully it's a 6-month process. Some people have told me it could be up to a year. I don't know why it takes so long, and I'll find out. And then it comes down to grants. So grants, you can get grants as a business and grants as a nonprofit. So the cool thing is, we are a business for the liability, right? But we are a fiscally sponsored business, which sometimes messes with people's brains because they're like, I don't like that. No one's making a lot of money here. It's just all legality, right? But I can apply technically for business grants and nonprofit grants right now if I wanted to, which is kind of a fun place to be. So for business grants, you can go on to SBA.com. We kind of brought that up earlier. They have lots of grants on there, big applications, and they also have a way to they have a template on there for you to make a business plan. Business plans are fun, living organisms. I'll just give you that. They will change. As long as you start one and figure out how to do one, you'll be able to mold your business plan into many things. Anyways, let me see. What other ones? Amber Grant. Amber Grant is for women-run businesses. They give $10,000 a month to a business, and then at the end of the year, they have a $25,000 grant. For everyone who applied and received it, they get to go towards the $25,000 grant. Super cool for women-owned businesses. Google, you can Google some business grants. I did put a little disclaimer in there. There is a lot of online services that'll say, hey, pay us $30 and we'll give you all these grants and whatever. At your own risk. Do your research before you ever give anyone your credit card information. Be very aware of what that place is, and if you're not comfortable, just don't do it. Pull out. You'll get to a point where you'll be looking at a grant application and you'll go to apply, and it'll be give me your credit card information, and then you'll be this is a grant. Excuse me. Amber Grant does actually charge a little bit. I've had some places charge. Amber Grant charged the association, I think it's National Association of Latino Arts. They ask for a monthly membership fee to be able to apply for their grants. But yeah, a nonprofit, that kind of loses into nonprofit. The California Arts Council has been our biggest sponsor. They had this big thing when we started where they were trying to fund all of the small nonprofits that make under $250,000 a year, which is at first I was oh, that's not a lot. That's we could do that. And then this year, once you kind of actually get successful, you're oh shoot, I need more than $250,000 to survive. So that's kind of difficult, but they did this thing where they made it really easy. So we got a lot of grants, the California Arts Council, and their grant process is really straightforward for nonprofits. Humanities for All has different types of grants that let you connect arts with humanities, which is kind of fun, art history and things like that, literature. Bank of America, believe it or not, has a grant. They give grants every I think it's every quarter for them. And then community foundations. Yeah, they're great. Let's see. And then for tips for applying for grants, so I've been on a grant panel. I've read a lot of grants. And one of them is really answer the question. I will read a grant and someone will be la, 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 and get on to this tangent, which is beautiful. I love to hear that, but you didn't answer the question, right? So remember to answer the questions and then elaborate. You just question, and then you can add all of your fun frills ideas as long as you've answered it. Create a realistic budget. That's a big one. People have gotten dinged on that. Just for an example, someone had contacted me and they told me that something cost way too much on it, and then they didn't get the grants. Most of the grant just went towards something that they would maybe use twice, right? And the grant was for more things. So it's kind of one of those things where you want to make sure that you're realistic on exactly what you need to do the thing. And then don't forget stuff. Add a little buffer, add a little cushion, always, to your budgets. And then have relevant examples and really high quality images. I don't mean they have to be amazing, but don't have your kitchen table junk in your picture of your art. I know that's kind of insulting to some people, but it's true. People will submit those. Or don't make sure that you don't submit the blurry picture. Make sure that you're focused on your artwork. Don't and also don't just give them random stuff, because you might just be oh, let me just give them everything in my folder, but it'll hinder you, because they'll be what am I focused on? You really want to make sure that you're very direct with what you're requesting. I think this is my last step. Oh no, I don't know. Oh, this is, all right. I didn't know I was still talking. All right, so my last thing before we finish up, and that is, I wanted to go over organizing art markets in case some of you are interested in it. Now that we've kind of gone over what we are. So the first thing is insure your events. People might think, I don't need no insurance. It'll be fine. Those are my friends that are vending with me. They won't sue me. Yeah. Yeah, let's make sure that you insure it. Anything could happen at an event. Anyone could we've had really bad situations these past couple years, and you just want to make sure it's insured. There is an online site called thimble.com, like the thimble that goes on your finger, and they're great for quick insurance. I get them if I just question my insurance. Like, we had an event with alcohol, and our insurance was like, oh, let the person who's selling the alcohol, let their insurance cover it. And I was like, So I got extra insurance through Thimble, just in case, because they offer alcohol coverage insurance. But Thimble's great just for small businesses as well. And then let's see, create a budget. So some people will be like, oh, but people can't afford the money. Come up with how much it's gonna cost. People really need to hear the realistic costs. We started off with $25 per vendor fee, and all of my savings died out because I was covering everything that wasn't covered by the vendor fees. And so when we went to increase them, they're like, why are you increasing them? like, I don't understand, how did it go up? And I'm like, well, I wasn't charging you for everything before. So just, be aware, increase your prices if you need to, and people are gonna be upset, but then you're gonna get people who understand it. And as long as you can back it up, that's something I always tell my team, I'm like, as long as we can make it worth that for them, they make the money back. And then let's see, get event permits from your city. This is a big one if you have, I think this part I don't know about here, but in Watsonville, it's very tricky to get an event permit, but you can get one through the police station, and they will kind of set you up. It's basically a sound permit. It's kind of weird, the whole process of permits, so I won't get into it, but you're basically paying so that, if something, if people complain about your music, then they won't come and shut down your event, kind of thing. And then the other one is find sponsors for anything that you're okay, the vendor fee is now at $150. You're I need to come up with some ways to pay for things. So find sponsors. Consider creating a sponsorship package, basically meaning okay, if you give me $100, your logo goes on the flyer, you get to go on with your life. You give me $500, and we're gonna mention your name on the loudspeaker 3 times. You give me $1,000, your name will be on every tent. You know what I mean? Come up with incentives, because I know you're oh, they're gonna love to give back to the community. No, businesses want incentives. They want a reason. And then remember, if you are becoming a nonprofit, those are not tax deductible for them, because it's basically you're offering a service. As soon as you offer something in exchange, it's not a donation. Just keep that in mind. And then have rules in place before reaching out to vendors. So just make sure that they know exactly how you're gonna engage with them. And basically saying, I will let you know a week before that we're gonna have what the map's gonna look like, where you're gonna be, your details for the event, right? Otherwise, when people come to you the day after applying and say, where's the map? You can be hey, I know you read this and this is that, refer them to the rules. I love our artists, but we're stubborn, and we are stuck in our ways sometimes. And so we have rules in place. It's a good place for us as organizers. I'm also an artist, so I understand. To just make sure everything is clear. And then when you create your map. So back in the day, this big thing about creating your map was a big thing. They're you come and you just set up as you come. But now it's been more like create the map, and it makes sense to me. Like, and it makes it so you can have vendors, you can kind of fix them around so they're not in clusters of the same thing. And then have them set up. So you're gonna notice that your vendors are gonna show up probably 4 or 5 hours earlier than your event. But I usually put like at least 3 hours. You're like, what? So if I have a 5-hour event, I'm usually there for like 9 hours straight. And then sometimes I'll have people call me at like 8:30. I'm here already. Can I set up? No. I'm like, no. I'm like, I am on my way. I didn't even get my coffee yet. It's crazy. They'll come up with that. But anyways, just know that you do have to give them some time. Otherwise, you'll have lots of complaints. 3 hours is usually for food, but you'll get like the other vendors. I'm like, why do you want to be there for 3 hours? Just like, but they want to get there and they want to situate themselves and they want to set up and they want to just sit until it starts at 12. So they want to be there all day with you. Anyways, those are kind of, I think this is my last slide. Yes. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much, Monica.
Yes.
I know you have the 40 art markets. I know you have stories for days, and how that's gone, all the positive and all the challenges with that. So if you have any other questions, this is the time here we go.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
How do you, so you give a lot of great information about how to start up an art market, but my big question is how do you source a location for said market?
Oh, okay. That has completely been my community driven. So basically what I mean by that is all the artists, when I work as a group, which is great, they all have their own connections to different businesses. And so if someone knows the person who runs Jalisco's in our town owns one of the properties. And so like it's like a word of mouth thing, or you can just go to the places, call them. It depends. Some places aren't like very call worthy. They don't get back to you. You probably experienced that. Or just try to go make a connection with like a local business. The cool thing about local businesses is that they insure everything, like up to the parking lot usually, like, and so that helps out the vendors. So if the vendors don't want to pay for insurance, if they don't want to pay for insurance, technically they're being covered by the business. But once you're on any other land that like that let's say like rents out spaces, everyone has to have insurance, and it becomes a whole thing. So it's like there is a little separation there. There's a little bit less funds that go around, but I do recommend just getting insured because anything could happen. Yes.
Along those lines,
Yeah.
when you're saying getting insured, are your vendors usually, I mean, if they have an LLC, that's one thing, but
Yeah.
if it's a sole proprietor, are they getting just insurance for that day for their like own event insurance, or like
So
what
it's
is
up
the
to them.
recommendation?
You can get an annual insurance plan even as a sole proprietor. You just kind of have to call and like, wait online with all the different places. We have farmers insurance right now. Thimble, like I said, is like in a pinch insurance. Like if someone's like, I don't want insurance, and I'm like, well, you need it. And so I send them to Thimble because it's like, yeah. So, so that's kind of a thing. You want general liability insurance. Everybody suggests 2 million of coverage. And then professional liability, that's for people like who are doing services.
So if you had somebody like, if you had offered classes in your home, you'd want professional liability.
It depends. I would say yes. Like let's say I'm up here talking to you guys and I say something completely random and you guys are like, you couldn't sue me for saying that random thing and you go do it. Like that's what professional liability is. It's like what you tell people, if it's not like correct, they can sue you for giving them the improper information. And then general is like more of a general, like anything that you're doing, like your operations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Casey?
Yes, I know you talked about picking up your board. What process do you take for picking up the board that works for you since they're gonna be your boss?
Yes. Okay, so mine has been, I'm just looking for people who have similar interests in supporting the community. So like mine has always just been like to be helpful to my fellow artists and to help rise up with them as like a unit instead of just me being like, I'm gonna go become famous or whatever. So it's basically been interest for me. Like I kind of know them. I meet a lot of people as like the organizer of Arte de Corazón. And so like I've met a lot of people and I know where their heart is. And so that's kind of how I choose. And then if they have like a skill that I think the community would love to like, I don't know, engage with. Like I have some people who are what is it called? Graphic designers. I have some people who actually like give people tips on their like small businesses like online, and they're part of our board. I have people who organize their own little grassroots organization, and they're on our board. So things like that. I kind of like look for that. Some people I've heard have like their mom and their sister on their board because they're concerned. Like they're like, it's just my mom and my sister. So I have a board, but I do recommend if you want to be like big and for the community, start to engage with your community members. And you know, if they get rid of me one day, that's fine. You know what? I gave it a shot. Yeah.
All right, well, thank you so much,
Yeah.
Monica.